I'm not sure we can hear
You,
you.
Julie? Oh.
Gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we're guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, even as we affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. It's wonderful to see you all, both here in our Great Hall and online. If you're new or returning after a time away, welcome. Please feel free to fill out a welcome card, which you can put in the offering plate here on the chancel, there, after the service. Doing that allows us to put you on our email list. For those of you online, there's a link to the card in the chat. Those of you here in person, thank you for wearing your masks. I hope many of you will be able to join us at the Arcadia Wildlife Sanctuary next Sunday at 11 a.m. for an opening gathering featuring our youth director, Collie Williams, on guitar, as well as games, walks, and opportunities to connect with other people. Check your email for more details. Also, next Sunday at 11, Kathy Lilly will host a Zoom social hour. And there will be a Zoom social hour after today's service. And now we'll begin.
Ours is a faith that champions freedom and justice, a faith built on and sustained by love, a faith inspired by acts of courage, and a faith that offers hope and joy. And now please join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice, which will be on the screen. We light our chalice as a beacon of faith, a sign of our quest for truth and meaning. We light our chalice as a beacon of love in celebration of the life we share together. You can stay up.
Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of this hour, gathered here in the mystery of this body, 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 gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit, draw near.
Spirit, draw near.
It's good to be here together. Here and online, we have probably 38 screens, people online, some twos, some in pairs, some singles. Last Wednesday, many of you, were present online or in person for Michael Holroyd's memorial service, and that was a bittersweet gathering. And I think it reminded most of us of how precious it is to be in and part of a religious community. Last month, the end of June, Booker and I spent a week in Portland, Oregon, visiting our son Elliot, who moved out there last fall, and also attending the annual meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. So I attended a gathering of UU clergy that takes place a few days before what is called the UU General Assembly. General Assembly offers an opportunity for people from congregations all over the country to meet and exchange ideas and to attend workshops, to worship together, and to conduct the business of the association. In the past few years, due to COVID, the number of workshops has gotten quite small. But this year's meeting was the first nearly 100% multi-platform, which means that just about everything was available both in the hall, in the convention center, and online. What is the UUA? The UUA is an institution that is striving to fulfill its mission and its purposes as those are shaped by its members. And we, the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence, are one of those members. The members are Unitarian Universalist congregations. So the UUA is an association of congregations. And I happen to know and have tremendous respect for some of the people leading it now, particularly our president, the Reverend Dr. Susan Frederick Gray. She came into the presidency in 2017 at a very troubled time for the UUA, and she has done a remarkable, remarkable job leading it through controversy. And then she continues to lead with vision and heart through the ever-changing challenges of the pandemic, through people's resistance to change, and through the challenges of all the challenges of the times we live in. And I have heard her state very clearly, one of the things, I'll say this again, is wonderful about her is she's just very, very clear about what she's doing. She says several times I've heard her say several times, the purpose of the UUA is to equip our congregations for vital ministry, to train and support leaders, both lay and professional, and to advance Unitarian Universalist values in the world. 3 purposes. The UUA equips congregations by providing us with resources for worship, for religious education, for music ministry, for governance, for human resource administration, for finance, and more. And we do consult them. The staff consult them. We use RE and worship materials that come through them. We call them when we have a question about our finance, something in finance or something having to do with human resource administration and other issues too. They also offer workshops and other support for clergy and lay leaders, and the UUA promotes our values, our common values, through public witness and the resources that they provide for the work we do together: anti-racism work, anti-oppression work, climate, and other social justice work, including their leadership in the UU the Vote movement. So today I want to share a little bit about what I learned in Portland, and I'm really shamelessly borrowing most of my content from Susan's President's Report, which was delivered at the business meeting on Thursday, June 23rd. She is now serving in her 6th year which is the final year of a 6-year term. So I invite you all to listen, to think about what Unitarian Universalism means to you during this time together this morning. And our hymns come through the generosity of our sibling congregations all across the country. All of the videos that you're going to see were recorded during the pandemic by congregations across the country. So I think that will be fun. The first one gathered here, that one came from the UU Church in Bellevue, Washington. And now I invite you again to rise and join in singing hymn number 145, As Tranquil Streams. And I suggest you might want to use the hymnal if you're in the hall. If you're online, you won't have any problem reading the font, but the font is kind of small in this video, so you might want to use the hymnal for this one. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing. On the screen, online, and then say hello to one another in the pews. And if you're online, we suggest put your screen on video view, gallery view, and then turn off your video for a sec. There you are. Okay, wave to the people in back again. Hello up there. Hello, hello, Dave and Catherine on vacation somewhere. Susan and Dave. Hello, John and Gail. Julie, who else is here? Oh my goodness, Kirby, nice to see you. Laura, Ann, Diane and Craig, Ed, Alan, good to see you. Sydney, Jane, Rick, Sally. Oh, Sally, great to see you. I picked flowers, Sally. I hope you can see that today. Emma, Julie, Jessica's upstairs. Sue Murphy and Amanda, great to see you. Joanna, Patty, Ellen, Patty Cowden. Oh my. Wonderful to see you all. Nancy, Marianne, who's out there? Many people out here. Craig, Janet Spongberg, Nancy, Kathy and Bill, Kathy Brown, Lee Campbell, David MB, the Billings, Gil and Evelyn, Julie Caros, Ginny. Wonderful to see you all. All right, Paul and Wiley, Peggy. So great to have you here and that you're all part of our community. I want to now, you can turn your videos back off. I want to thank everyone who has continued this summer to make a weekly online contribution to our, what we still call our plate offerings. This year the link, right now the link again is in the chat. if you're online. Those of you who are here in the Great Hall today and would like to make a contribution, you can put something in the offering plate at the end of the service. Our offering contributions support the work of the Society and other organizations outside of our community, and your generosity makes a difference. But before we have our offertory, I'm going to read to you from the President's report, Susan's report. These are just excerpts. So this is from the very beginning of her report. She said, she gave this Thursday morning, which was really the opening of the official business. She said, I want to start by just inviting joy, to let joy be present to you. So let's try that for a minute. Just invite joy this beautiful day, a beautiful baby in the back of the church. Invite joy to be present. Susan said, this is my penultimate President's report. We are in the churn of change. Systems and practices that we've relied on are breaking down and shifting. What is needed is being imagined, but not here yet. In times of change and loss and uncertainty, there is a risk that fear will dominate. But let us remember that we are not a people of fear. We are a people of faith. We are a religious people of imagination and possibility. The hymn Tranquil Streams was written for the merger 61 years ago that created the Unitarian Universalist Association, when the Unitarians and the Universalists joined together to become one organization. We are a faith that reveres the past but trusts the dawning future more. And the future, that future, awaits our liberating ministry. We are called to go forward in the power of love and to proclaim a truth that makes all people free. And now we'll have our offertory music.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now, it is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
The meditation is written by Adam Lawrence Dyer. He is a gay black man who is the lead minister at the First First Parish Church, UU in Cambridge. The name of this is Orphaned in History, again by Adam Lawrence Dyer. I struggle with history, the flickering yellowed images, the faded pages, the fond memories, nostalgia. The kin burns pan and scan of faces, documentary after documentary, are not what I am looking for. These images are more distant, more removed, disconnected from me by handlebar mustaches and porcelain skin. These recollections, this fondness for painting the past, does not even know I existed, except for slavery and the Reverend Dr. King. And so this history is their story. It does not belong to me. I did not tell it. I did not write it. I do not own it. I do not want it. Who will tell my story beyond the color lines, beyond the lunch counters, beyond the chains of slavery and jails? Who will tell stories older than 2 millennia of kings and goddesses, legends and legacies that blend and bend in a portrait that traces my profile and tinges my brow? Who will tell my history, when and how?
The opening worship at General Assembly began with a version of the Star-Spangled Banner. I think we were going to hear it, but I think something happened to the video. It's a version of the Star-Spangled, oh, here it is. Let's hear it. The version we heard was with full orchestra and chorus. And the chorus played a version from, I think, the Mass of a Dies Irae, angry gods against, that's what the chorus was singing, against the orchestras playing the Star Spangled Banner. We're now going to listen to part of what Susan said from Susan herself at the opening business meeting of the UU General Assembly. Hello, Nylena.
From the earliest days of my presidency, I have said two things are clear. Number one, this is no time for a casual faith. And number two, this is no time to go it alone. These words have only become more apparent and urgent. And everywhere I see you. I see Unitarian Universalists living into these commitments. For here, before me, virtually and in person, I witnessed leaders who responded so quickly to the pandemic that they literally saved lives. Leaders who continue to center the most vulnerable in their decisions, embodying inclusion and mutual care. Religious professionals who innovated and pivoted and pivoted and pivoted again to respond to the ever-changing reality of the pandemic, of the ongoing pandemic. And congregational leaders who used their buildings during the pandemic to save lives, who organized food banks, sheltered people, offered hospitality, sanctuary, and medical support to freedom fighters in the streets. Leaders from the over 215 congregations and counting that have passed the 8th principle, a grassroots movement among you all to endorse our shared commitment to beloved community and anti-racism as a part of our core principles. Veterans, I see veterans of UU The Vote 2020 who built relationship with frontline defenders of democracy and contacted over 3 million voters. We did that. You did that. And leaders and volunteers in the room right now and online who are going to do it again in UU The Vote 2022. We are going all in for voting rights, all in to defend Black lives, defend trans kids, defend the right to abortion, to demand climate action, and to protect our kids, our communities, and our educators from the censorship of the anti-critical race theory movement and the politicians who refuse to take action on gun regulation. Here before me and online, I witness you. I witness a UUA, all of us. And for our work at the UUA staff, wave your hands, UUA staff. I love you. I'm so grateful to get to work with you each and every day. A UUA that has been intentional in our institutional change work and has cultivated the most diverse staff at the UUA, with an executive leadership team that is over 60% people of color, and a senior management team that is 40% people of color, and an overall UUA staff that is 32% people of color. A UUA that has been able to respond effectively to both the pandemic and the threats to democracy because of our diversity and because of our commitment to center those most directly impacted by systemic injustice. UU values are shaping the wider culture through Beacon Press, which is publishing the authors needed in these cultural conversations, and the and the voices needed to understand the histories of how we got here. Congregations, you all, congregations that are mobilized to help women obtain abortions. That's right, providing financial resources, spiritual care, and accompaniment. Congregations, ministers, and religious educators supporting and protecting trans kids in their communities and their families, knowing unequivocally that trans lives are sacred, precious, and loved. Here we are, people who have stretched and stretched and stretched and provided ministry and leadership through the most heart-wrenching and difficult times. And still we show up again and again. I love this faith. Love, bless us in this faith. And I know this hasn't been the whole story. I know so many have been broken and hurt in deep ways. I have been broken in deep ways. So many of us are tired and unsure if we can keep going. Like so many helping professionals, like our nurses and our teachers, ministers and religious professionals are leaving the work, taking prolonged or extended time off because it has been all too much. At the UUA, we recognize a shortage, particularly for interim ministers, and we are doing our best to support and equip our congregations through this time. But there are larger dynamics at play that we all, including you all as congregational leaders, have to wrestle with. We have to care for our staff as we together care for our mission. We need communities that can be vital sources of dynamic, life-giving ministry. And we need to learn our way into new patterns that meet this moment. For we are in a time of dramatic shift. And I don't have all the answers. And it's not easy. I'm not here to tell you that, but we have to be in the work. It's also true that there is conflict and division in our society. Much of it related to the fact that we are becoming an increasingly diverse and multiracial country. Yes, amen. Not to the conflict, though. That's rooted in racism. When there is conflict in society, we often experience it in our congregations. There's nothing new about that. It's part of being a tradition that's not rooted in the past, but in the here and now. One of the things I am most proud of as your president is our anti-racism work. It is powerful, beautiful, and liberating. It is a part of the joy that gives me life. And while we recognize that culture change is difficult and uncomfortable, it is how we grow spiritually as human beings. This work is the deepest expression of our values. And we have a generational opportunity to be the kind of just and anti-oppressive faith community that we imagine and that we talk about. And there are those who oppose. There are those who oppose our focus on anti-racism work and dismantling white supremacy culture within and beyond our religious community. This is not new. Historically, this work has always been met with resistance. As much as we claim the history of abolitionists and anti-racists, it isn't the whole story. Yes, we are the tradition of U.S. Senator Charles Sumner, a fierce and dedicated anti-racist who was beaten viciously on the floor of Congress for daring to name explicitly the depraved abuse of his slave-owning colleagues. But we are also the tradition of pro-slavery Senator John C. Calhoun. Yes, we are the tradition of Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, an African-American poet, abolitionist, and suffragette. And we were the faith community of U.S. President Millard Fillmore, who signed the Fugitive Slave Act. We are the faith of Waitstill and Martha Sharp, who resisted the Nazis and provided safe passage for refugees. And we were the tradition of Charles William Eliot, president of Harvard, who, among other Unitarians, were supporters and funders of the eugenics movement. We are the faith of James Reeb and Viola Luso, who we honor as martyrs in the civil rights movement. And we were also a General Assembly who in 1963 defeated a bylaw change that would have required UU congregations to admit people to membership regardless of race, color, or national origin. No, we defeated it in 1963. We defeated it. Said it was a violation of congregational polity. We struggle with our understanding of freedom. Somehow, freedom to segregate was more important than the freedom of Black people, Black Americans, to come into any one of our congregations and be welcomed, and to say that we believe that as a practice for our whole faith. Yes, this is who we are. This is who we've been. I mean, it's all here. This history tells the story of Unitarian Universalists willing to risk their lives for a future of justice, equity, and freedom for all, and it tells the history of UUs who resisted change and defended and protected the status quo in moments when the times called for courage and boldness. The facts of this complicated history are important to know and to grapple with as uncomfortable truths. And the arc of where we have come honors the courage of those who came before. The stories from this history, particularly the ones we tell again and again, reflect the paths that Luso and Reeb and Harper and Sumner built. They reflect the songs they sang that we have chosen to keep following. I believe that something has shifted in us. It's been building for some time. It is evident in the resolution toward an anti-racist UUA passed 25 years ago at the 1997 General Assembly, which resulted in the creation of the Journey Towards Wholeness Transformation Committee. And while there was lots of resistance in response to that resolution, the embrace of this work has only continued to grow. It was apparent in 2019, just a few years ago, when a survey of the General Assembly led by the Commission on Institutional Change found that nearly 91% of respondents ranked anti-racism work as of primary importance, with nearly 60% ranking it as the highest priority. Clap for that. And we witnessed it again last year when our General Assembly overwhelmingly adopted the Statement of Conscience undoing systemic white supremacy. There has emerged and grown over these last 25 years a powerful consensus across our movement for the centrality of this work. We have built the grassroots momentum to sustain our anti-racism work in an ongoing way, perhaps for the first time. Now, this doesn't mean that the work is easy or that there's only one way to do it. Dismantling systemic racism and white supremacy is long-haul work that requires an ability to embody a learning community way of being, a both-and approach that can hold multiple experiences, that can nurture the kind of trust that allows for truth-telling, and practices that foster repair and forgiveness. It means centering the voices and investing in leaders from communities that have been marginalized in our tradition. It requires being a living tradition that trusts the dawning future more. So how do we meet this moment? Who are we called to be? How is love calling us? Let me say it plainly. We are called to anti-racist work. We are called to it. We cannot be the people that we say we are. We cannot love the values that we say we love, the values of human dignity, justice, compassion, democracy, truth, peace, if we do not commit ourselves to dismantling systems of oppression within ourselves and our society. And this commitment is rooted in our theology. It is our theology that is the foundation of this calling and this work. A theology which affirms the truth that no one is outside the circle of love, and that liberation is only possible when everyone is free. Liminal times need moral and faithful communities to provide a clarion call for what is next. We have to fight and boldly proclaim what is next.
I hope you can see why I love her. Please rise now in body or spirit, and we'll join the Community Church of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in singing One More Step. I think it's their choir, actually. So I'm curious about what struck you in Susan's report. As I said before, one thing that strikes me is her clarity. And I was shocked to hear about the 1963 General Assembly and the vote against a proposed bylaw change that would require congregations to admit membership, regardless of race, color, national origin. Voted it down because the majority agreed it was a violation of an individual congregation's rights to set its own condition of membership, a violation of congregational independence, a violation of congregational polity. And I agree with Susan that 60 years later we can still get a little too hung up on individual rights, confused about freedom, confused about what it means to hold common values as a covenantal community. You can find her entire report, if you're interested, on the UUA website. There are other meetings there also and worship services from GA. And I think, Jessica, do you have the link up there? Jessica can put, I don't think I gave it to Amanda and Lori, but Jessica will put the link in the chat. So what are we called to do? What are we called to do as our part of our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition that, despite its small size, has a voice on the national stage? How are we called, to what are we called as the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence? What is at the very heart and core of our own purpose and our own mission? You know, the service on Wednesday for Michael Holroyd gave us a clue, I think, about our purposes. If you think about what he taught us, who he was. It has been hard breaking the rhythm of our times together this summer without regular services and programs to which people can turn. And we have needed the break. But what was so clearly present in the gathering for Michael's service and after Michael's service was the love and commitment and care that we offer to one another. A love and commitment and care that then impels us to share ourselves and our faith, not just within our own walls or our own Happy Valley community, but well beyond these walls and this space and this Zoom space, throughout the greater community, throughout society, throughout our planet home. A love that knows no bounds. Susan ended her report by saying, "We were meant for joy. We were meant for joy, and joy feels like love, and it moves like freedom. We were made for this moment now. May we be the people we are called to be." Our final hymn is the South African freedom song, Siyahamba. That is in the teal hymnal, which I don't have up here. Can somebody look up the number? You look in the back. 1030. It's 1030. Please rise in body or spirit and join the UU Church in Roanoke, Virginia in singing.
Siyahamba kung ganyan Siyahamba kung ganyan Siyahamba kung ganyan Siyahamba kung ganyan Siyahamba, hamba, siyahamba, siyahamba kung ganyan Siyahamba, hamba, siyahamba, siyahamba kung ganyan We are singing in the light of God. 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 We are singing, singing, we are singing. We are singing in the light of God.
Let's hold the joy of those goofy people in Roanoke who are just as goofy as we are here. May we know joy, and may we be the people we are called to be. Go in peace. And thank you all. Thank you all for coming.